There's this debate. The robots are going to take our jobs, the cry arises. It's true, but only in a tiny way. There's a truer truth of the economy, more fundamental and more vital. The robots aren't going to take your job. You are. What do I mean? Let's consider for a moment what we might mean by the jobs of the future. Are they factory jobs, warehouse jobs, retirees packing Amazon crates, and so on? Nope. Why not? Because the economy has already shifted to services. It's quite alright if robots take those jobs, because they don't create much real value to begin with, and so they make human beings miserable, by wasting their potential. You and I were made for better things. The real problem is that the economy isn't creating the jobs of tomorrow, not that the robots are taking the jobs of yesterday. Let's think about this in two ways, from the bottom up, and the top down. You know and I know that the costs of things like pollution, gun deaths, and misinformation all off a CBOC Russian electioneering should be counted somehow in GDP. We don't count them, and so we have a deeply distorted picture of the economy, which is putatively growing although no one's life really is. How are we to count them? Now, I can tell you my ways. But that's not the point. The jobs of the future begin right there, and trickle downwards. Let's imagine that as a company, I asked you to tell me your real costs and benefits, how much real wealth and value you were creating. How would you do it? You'd probably have to hire a chief something new officer, maybe a head of human impact or well-being or life. They'd have to hire a whole department. That department would have to be composed of whole new roles, from next-generation accounting, to finance, to service design, to management, to marketing, and so on. As you develop your new measures, ideas, frameworks, then, so too, the organization could begin to think anew, conceptualize truer, and innovate again. But really innovate this time, develop genuine breakthroughs, and it doesn't matter what they are, whether they're electric cars or life-saving drugs or democracy-saving media, only that they thus reverse the grim picture of growth without any real human benefits. So, new roles, new functions, new structures, new ambitions, visions, missions, all of which arch towards a higher purpose of genuinely and positively transforming people's lives. Then come the jobs of tomorrow. What are those jobs? They are things like chief ethics officers, chief creativity officers, chief humanity officers, if you want to go a bit further still. They're things like green accountants, impact designers, happiness or satisfaction or meaning or auditors and developers and statisticians, human well-being strategists, and organizational philosophers to think about it all. Whether or not they deal in code, in math, in marketing, or in relationships is besides the point, and of course they will deal in all those, yet the disciplines in which they specialize are human potential, the growth of life itself, the transformation of existence. Now, I said the robots wouldn't take your job. You would. What did I mean? I meant that for this shift to happen, a society has to be willing to move, change, shift. If it is only stuck in consuming yesterday's goods, then of course, tomorrow's jobs will never be born, by definition. If the only thing that you really believe in is guns and freedom, then of course the jobs of tomorrow are only going to be gunsmiths and serfs and sheriffs. You are going to take your job in the sense that unless you are willing to invest a little to make this shift, it will not happen. What do I mean by invest? I mean that business alone can't make this shift, and neither can government, and neither can finance. All must work together, to really create the jobs above. They must form partnerships and alliances to genuinely enhance human lives, whether we dramatically call them Marshall Plans, or simply new ways of designing social contracts. Yet until and unless you and I are open to that necessity, then the jobs of the future cannot really materialize. Now the good news is that, in tiny ways, different organizations are beginning to open up to tomorrow. They are creating roles like the ones I've mentioned above, experimenting with people doing things that create radically more genuine value and human well-being than simply drone delivering tacos or micro-targeting propaganda to hack elections with. And yet that wave cannot turn into a whole ocean unless you and I understand it not just as something other people do, but that we choose. When we see that life is something that must be wired into all of our organizations, through new roles, responsibilities, measures, titles, functions, whether in businesses, banks, or governments, in a genuine and meaningful way, then the jobs of the future will take care of themselves. The robots will be there, packing the shelves, and you and I, maybe, will be out there, thanking them for letting us explore a little deeper who we really are.